So moving on, we're gonna make a bass. That's what I would usually do after having drums, just to get my foundation sorted. In terms of synths that I'd like to use, because I want to stay away from samples, because I just load them up straight and that's it. Do some sort of sound design and synthesizer. One of the synths I like a lot is FM8. I made a patch pack for that as well on Loopmaster's website. You can get it. But with Machine, in the standard selection machines, what's it called, complete select, you get massive. So, you should all have it. Therefore, it seems like a good idea to work with that. So let's just start at the beginning. I'm just going to do this inside the software, not using the controller as much right now. So here we go. Massive. Now, when you load up Massive, you can see you have all these different pages here, which correspond to your controller here, and you can navigate them. But obviously, the overview is a little bit dramatic when a synthesizer has so many parameters, and still not everything is entirely accessible, I guess. So, you do have some functionality here, but overall, I think for just program patches, you're going to go back to the mouse. I do, anyway. Now, what I want, first of all, I want just a sub bass, something that can be functional, sit underneath whatever else we're going to write. So I'm going to start here with an initialized patch. I'm going to use oscillator 1. I'm going to load up something along the lines of, let's just go for a simple sine to square wavetable. Now we're sending it to filter 1 only. Filter 1 will be a pretty steep low pass filter. Open it up a little bit so we can hear something. So now we have this sound set. Let's also set up the keyboard here. We're pressing shift pad mode. We're into keyboard mode. Also already done here, but I've shifted down the transposition of the pads into the 0 range, because F0 is roughly where a good bass note sounds best, in my opinion. E or F or G, depends on your preference. So now I can kind of addition it a little bit as I'm going. All right, so here we are, just turn it up a little bit. Simple sub. Let's add a second layer. So we're going to enable second oscillator, also send it to filter 1. We'll put a similar wave in there, sine to square wavetable. I want to have a little bit of modulation on it. So I'm going to assign LFO number 5 to the wavetable position. Just make it move slightly. You can hear what's going on a little bit now. I want this to be synced in time with the tune, something like 1/8 note. So we're starting to get a little bit of a wobble on. Also, just for a little bit of interference, so it moves a little bit more, especially my old tunes used to do this quite a lot. You just sort of split, detune both oscillators slightly up and down, and we get interference, movement, just make it slightly more interesting. This LFO that we just set up, just also applied slightly on the filter. And here we are getting something that works around about, sort of this kind of right, sort of wobbly type of bass that I want to get. At the moment, you can hear the project still at 120, so let's just quickly set it up to 170. It'll quite change the speed of the wobble, of course. So there we go. Also, one thing that is just, sort of the envelope 4 is assigned to the amp standardly, and you can hear now it has a little bit more loudness at the beginning when the note is played. I just want to make that basically virtually no attack, virtually no release, and just decay, sustain for the up. In other words, when I touch it and let go, it plays at full volume. It's almost immediately off. Just make sure the attack is not so small that you would hear clicks. Can be a little bit confusing. Another thing as well, we have 2 slightly detuned oscillators, and you can hear sometimes, the notes and the interference of it sort of moving through this sort of different kind of interference patterns. Just to get rid of that, we can restart via gate, link all of the oscillators together, even change the phase if you don't like exactly how it's starting. It's quite a useful feature of Massive that I don't see a lot of people use. Finally, let's apply envelope 1 to the pitch of oscillator 1 and 2. There we go, for about 12 notes, something like that. We're going to go for a simple, like also an ADSR envelope with just a little pitch drop. And you can hear sort of that what we were talking about earlier with the synthetic kick drums, the bend and the time. We have now sort of done that manually just with a pitch drop. And we just get a little bit sort of a kicky definition at the beginning. Now with the low pass filter there, some of that definition is actually lost. So we could just apply that same envelope just a little bit. So applying the same envelope also to the filter a little bit, it means that at the moment that we are sort of having this pitch drop occur, we open the filter just momentarily so that some of those higher frequencies from the higher pitch actually come through and don't just get cut off, and so we just kind of end up with some sort of a volume fade sort of in terms of what you can hear. Right, it's clipping tiny bit on the master there, so make sure we don't do that. And you know, as far as everything goes, we could apply some effects here like distortion or whatever, but you know, we can also do that in master. We can do that later when we get to a point where we can hear it with the drums. One thing that I'm thinking is just to make sure that with the interference and the wobble, we just get as much of a steady and solid note as possible, because obviously we want a solid amount of bass underneath the tune. Just limit this a little bit, so we can load up after the massive. We just load up. Oops, see lazy. We will load up a limiter, like just an internal standard limiter. In terms of the mode, we could, you know, just apply this, no release. This is just a very solid limiter. You can just super quick, basically a leveler is almost what you would call it, I guess. And now we just have like one solid, nice zero hitting sort of sound. You can now see really the interference pattern is being caught with this. And now we have like, you know, sort of fairly steady kind of sounding sound. We can just sort of tweak these parameters a little bit more. But we can do that later. We can just sort of see how this comes out. All right, so that's like the first sort of simple bass patch.